Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 4 of our course on organizational behavior. As always, you can find some notes that I took on chapters 7, chapter 10, and the article Stress and Conflict in the Workplace within the course news and bulletins. So, the highlights I have, I posted there. I'm sure you have your own as well. I wanted to say a few things about week number 4 in regards to what the learning outcomes are and a little discussion on the DQs as well, of course. So, the learning outcomes for week 4 are to understand the role that emotions play for attitudes and behavior at work. And make no mistake, they are a big part of work, as you know, from being an employee in an organization. And also understand the causes and the consequences of conflict and how to manage it in the workplace. So these are very complex issues that I'm sure you have a lot of experience with as a worker and as an employee and as a member of an organization and probably as a leader as well. So I'm sure this is a concept when we talk about emotions and conflict that resonate with all of us. So, as mentioned, there were 3 readings for the week. Chapter 7 of the book, which focused more on stress and emotion. Chapter 10, which really got into conflict, how to deal with it, forms of negotiation. And of course, there was an article as well that talked more about stress in the workplace from more of a medical background as opposed to an organizational behavior background, but certainly deepens our understanding of what stress is, how people experience it, and how could it potentially impact the workplace, which is a clear link, of course, to organizational behavior. So there are 2 DQs this week. The first one states, how might leaders engage in collective negotiating, and how does this relate to perceptions of conflict management? So to answer this question, I would suggest that you lean heavily on chapter 10 for sure. Talked a lot about conflict management strategies and negotiating strategies. So I suspect chapter 10 would be the most use for you in answering the first DQ question. I would encourage you to, when answering the question, think about your own experiences, bring those into play, think about what it says in chapter 10, and if you're thinking about the potential impact on people around dealing with negotiating, which is going to create, potentially conflict and potentially stress, that's where you can bring in chapter 7 in the article that were more related to emotion and stress. But definitely I would see chapter 10 as really grounding your answers as you meld them. I've used that phrase a few weeks now with your own experiences. The second DQ question for this week states, emotional intelligence has increasingly become an important consideration for organizational behavior. Find, post, and critically reflect on an article that discusses emotional intelligence in the workplace. So clearly, chapter 7, brings up the idea of emotional intelligence in terms of how we as leaders of organizations assist people in managing their stress and emotions. The article as well talks about that. I'm reaching over here, but in my bookshelf, I have a tattered copy of Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. I actually bought the book in 1996 when it came out, I believe. Maybe it came out in 95. As you can see, it's tattered and well worn, and I still refer to it at times, so it's a great book for sure. And Daniel Goleman is mentioned within one of those chapters. So find an external source outside of the readings. When you find that source, think about what it says and then compare it to what you've experienced as a leader and as an employee, and also what you've read. So as you find an external source to answer DQ2, you would say, well, here's another source that I found that's relevant to this conversation on emotional intelligence. Here's how it lines up with what I've read, probably more so in chapter 7 and the article. And try to bring in some of your personal experiences as well. So I hope that is some guidance on how to approach the 2 discussion questions this week. As always, let me know if you have any questions, and all the best to you, and I look forward to interacting with you within the week 4 DQs this week. All the best, folks.